Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hack for Good, the mental health project presented by Home Hardware. My name is Trisha Williams. I'm the managing partner and client success leader here at Geekspeak Commerce. Now, let's just go ahead and get the chat warmed up right away. Please drop us a note in the event chat just to let us know where you're joining us from, which city, which town. We're thrilled to have you here with us this weekend. Now, if this is your first Geekspeak hackathon, you might be wondering, why is an e-commerce agency hosting a hackathon focused on mental health? Well, the short answer is why not? Seriously though, we're lovers of technology, and we also know that the communities we live in have some pretty big problems. So we're motivated to be able to provide a platform for some really smart people like you to connect in order to solve some of these everyday challenges. On top of that, we ask our teams to do this within 30 hours with little to no sleep at all. Now, due to all the reasons we're painfully aware of, this is our second time hosting this event virtually. Here's what our hackathons used to look like. Looks like fun, doesn't it? Trust me, it is. Soon we'll be back to make this an in-person event once again, where we clear out our office and welcome perfect strangers in to stay up all night with us trying to solve the world's problems. Now, going virtual actually has a pretty big upside. We've been able to have participants join us from across the country. This year, we have representation from BC, Alberta, New Brunswick, Saskatchewan, Quebec, Manitoba, and of course, right here in Ontario. So a special shout out to all our participants. Welcome to Hack for Good, and thank you for sharing your time and knowledge on the Mental Health Project. Now, before I go any further, I need to thank some really important people, our sponsors. We could not host this event without them. A very big thank you to our presenting sponsor, Home Hardware. Our friends at Home Hardware have been so supportive and really generous partners throughout. Thank you so much, Home Hardware. We also have incredible support from our community, specifically the town of Whitby and Invest Durham. So if you're thinking of opening a business or moving into a new community, this is a great place to be. In addition, we have tremendous support from 360 Insights, which is a tech company founded right here in Whitby, which now has a presence all over the world. I know that they're always looking for great people to join their team, so if you're interested in growing your career, please check them out. We're also very happy to have sponsors from Spark Center, which is a technology incubator located in Oshawa, Ontario, and 1855, which is a technology accelerator located right here in Whitby. And a special thank you to our community partners, Staples Canada and the Canadian Mental Health Association. I encourage you all to check out our sponsor booths, as these organizations have a lot to offer and they'd love to hear from you. So this year's theme is Hack for Good, the Mental Health Project. And quite honestly, we couldn't think of a more topical theme. While mental health and wellness is always important, the last 2 years have been especially challenging. So to quote one of our partners, the Canadian Mental Health Association, mental illness indirectly affects all Canadians at some time, either through their own experience or that of a family member, friend, or colleague. In any given year, 1 in 5 people in Canada will personally experience a mental health problem or illness. And note, this stat is actually pre-pandemic. By age 40, about 50% of the population will have or have had a mental illness. Mental illness affects people of all ages, education, income levels, and cultures. However, systemic inequalities such as racism, poverty, homelessness, discrimination, colonial and gender-based violence, among others, can worsen mental health symptoms, especially if mental health supports are difficult to access. Now, the reality is that these statistics aren't just headlines or numbers shared in a report. These numbers represent real people with real stories of how they've been impacted. And based on these numbers, I think it's fair to estimate that many of us here at Hack for Good have been impacted by mental health struggles or mental illness personally, or have had friends, family members, or colleagues affected. And there's no question that mental health and mental illness is a growing challenge that currently has limited supports and resources available, particularly in vulnerable populations. So with that said, this leads me to the next group of people that I really need to recognize, and that's you, our participants. Truly, you could be doing anything this weekend. So thank you for choosing to spend your time with Hack for Good, the mental health project. And thank you for sharing your gifts. I'm excited about the prospect of our teams developing solutions that could help people living with mental health issues, or solutions that may help professionals who provide care in the field. I'm truly eager to see what our teams come up with. And just like previous years, I know I'll be amazed by your insight, creativity, and innovation. So in exchange for your time, we hope that you're able to broaden your network, learn some tips from our experts, make some friends along the way, and of course, have some fun. And by the way, we also have a grand prize up for grabs that includes $2,500, an awesome prize pack, your name on this innovation cup, and of course, all the bragging rights that come with winning Hack for Good. All right, at this time, I'd like to introduce you to somebody who's actually here with me in the GeekSpeak office. He's just downstairs, the founder and chief strategist of GeekSpeak Commerce, Isaac Wanzama.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trish, and welcome to Hack for Good 2022. My name is Isaac Wanzama. I'm the founder of GeekSpeak Commerce. This is the 5th year, and for me, the hackathon has always been about 3 things: tech innovation, community, and more importantly, challenging ourselves to look beyond ourselves, to want to make a difference and be part of something bigger, as ambitious as that may sound. And this year, it just seems that's more relevant and more important than ever before. So welcome, and thank you for choosing to be here. Hack for Good, as I mentioned, has been going for 5 years. And it happens each one of these years because of the commitment and passion of a lot of people who were involved in this event. I'd like to take this time to thank some of those people for all their hard work and their support for making this event the success that it is. First of all, I'd like to thank the entire GeekSpeak team, who's typically behind me throughout the year, particularly Trish and Suzanne Hicks for pulling this event together, and really your leadership for making this happen. I'm amazed each and every year the amount of effort it takes to make this event come to life. And each and every year, I leave very, very proud of the entire GeekSpeak team and all the work you do. So I got to give a hands out and a shout out to my team for sure. Then I'd like to thank all the sponsors, the mentors, the speakers who choose to make themselves available, choose to make their resources available, and to really impart a part in this event overall. A special shout out this year to Home Hardware, who's our presenting sponsor. Welcome, and welcome to the Hack for Good family. So glad you chose to be part of this. And then, of course, finally, I'd like to thank you, the participants. This year, as Tricia mentioned, we have people from all across Canada. Thank you for making the time and choosing to be here. This is all about you, has always been about the creative and the smart people who choose to want to make a difference. And thank you for choosing to be here. And then, of course, I'd like to thank the town of Whitby and the region of Durham for supporting Hack for Good from day one, and further for fostering a community of innovation and creativity. It's so important, as we shall see as we go forward. With that, I would like to introduce the Mayor of Whitby, Mayor Don Mitchell, to say a few words to the team, and have an amazing event, and I look forward to seeing your presentations tomorrow. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Don Mitchell, the Mayor of Whitby, and I'm pleased to be here to bring greetings on behalf of Council. Thank you to the organizers, and a big Whitby welcome to all participants. This year's theme is mental health, which is so timely, given how the pandemic has highlighted the importance of mental wellness. Your task over the next 30 hours is to develop a software prototype that addresses a solution to a mental health challenge. Good luck. You're all making a difference by being here. So big special thanks to Isaac and his team for making this event possible every year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Mitchell. Great to see you still have your GeekSpeak t-shirt. And thank you for your ongoing support. Mayor Mitchell has a 5-year streak going. He's been a part of every one of our hackathons. So thank you again, and we'll see you next year. All right, so before our next speaker, I'd like to do a little housekeeping. I know we've already warmed up the event chat, so thank you for that. I do want to call out that the event chat will be monitored throughout the event. So if you have a question, a GeekSpeak volunteer will respond as soon as possible. You can easily spot a Geek Speak volunteer with our red logo beside their names. We have a small army on right now, so geeks, please say hello in the chat. If you do have a question or concern that's specific to just you or your team, please ask a volunteer to direct message you, and we'll follow up as soon as we can. When you first signed into the event, you would have joined us in the reception area. You could consider this your homepage. The reception area is where you find out all of our general event information. And most importantly, this is where you'll find the event schedule. So you know what's planned throughout the 30-hour period. You're going to want to pay close attention to the schedule, as there are specific times that we will be broadcasting from this stage, and there aren't any notifications to alert you of this. If you look at the left-hand nav, you'll notice that we also have an expo area. This is where you can find out more information about our awesome sponsors. So please connect with them via chat or direct message. All right, so let's talk about your teams. Each team has been assigned a session, which is your designated private meeting room. You will only see and have access to your team's session where you'll have the ability to communicate via video chat throughout the event. You'll be collaborating with your team in your private session throughout the event, so please keep Hopin open throughout the event. We will be conducting polls and presenting opportunities to win some great prizes throughout the event. We even have a special guest DJ to get you fired up as you enter into the early morning hours of the event. Our DJ will take the stage at 10:30 and play until 11:30 tonight. And of course, you're seeing me right here on stage live. But if there's anything we've learned from the past 2 years of virtual events, it's pre-record as much as you can. So just like our message from Mayor Mitchell, we will have recordings of our speakers broadcasted from the stage, but many of them are in attendance right now, and they'd be happy to interact with you in the chat. So don't be shy about reaching out. All right, so speaking of this stage, each team will get their opportunity to present their prototype live on the main stage. As a note, we're currently live streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So hello, friends on social media, and thank you for joining us. We'll also live stream team presentations tomorrow evening. So if you've got friends and family interested in watching the presentations, please share the links available in the reception area. Okay, so that's it for Hopin. Our next speaker is from our presenting sponsor, Home Hardware. With us is Chris Parsons, Director of E-commerce. Please welcome Chris Parsons.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris Parsons. I'm the Director of E-commerce for Home Hardware. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of Hack for Good, the mental health project. We at Home Hardware have had a tremendous couple of years with COVID and the now new environment of how people shop with us, whether it be through virtual or in-store. And, you know, we had to make a number of changes back in 2020 with how consumers shop and engage at our stores, with putting up plexiglass. And then when it comes to the working environment, how consumers actually, or how our staff actually comes to work. So we're an organization that was Monday to Friday from 8 in the morning till 5 at night, and everyone had to be in the office. And within a 2-week period after COVID hit, our organization let everyone work from home, bought brand new equipment for folks that needed it, and really encouraged us to really balance our work-life balance and make it more of a blended experience. And this was all because we knew the pressures that everyone was going through and the anxiety that you know, consumers and our staff felt going through all of the unknown of COVID and just the pressures of life. So what we did is we focused on a bunch of new programs. We worked on popcorn meetings, for example, where we would just watch movies together through virtual events, or, you know, we would have water cooler chats where we encouraged our leadership to really engage with people that were working from home and just have good conversations, whether it was about sports, what they did on the weekend, etc. And this was something that the organization never did in the past. Like, it was always really focused on meeting the numbers, meeting the targets, and really focusing on those projects and tasks at hand. But you know, we matured as an organization. We adapted a lot of, I think it's an overused term now, but we adapted a lot of empathy from our leadership, and really it's a great new culture that we've created through a really negative environment. And I'm really proud to be part of Home Hardware and the new legacy that we're building as an organization, and so grateful to be part of something like this. And I think you guys should watch out, because apparently I'm going to be a judge, and that's exciting to me that I get to participate in that manner. So once again, Home Hardware, so fortunate to be part of this, and I look forward to spending the next number of hours with you guys.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you again, Home Hardware. You'll definitely see Chris again. As mentioned, he'll be on our judges panel tomorrow. So now I'm really excited to introduce you to our keynote speaker. Dr. Gayatri Jayarajan is a University of Toronto trained psychiatrist with the Canadian Mental Health Association. With a specialization in PTSD and trauma, Dr. Jayarajan uses technology such as apps to help with the treatment of her patients. Her clinical practice covers a broad area of psychiatry, including inpatient and outpatient care, emergency services, and electroconvulsive therapy. Please welcome Dr. Gayatri Jayarajan.
I would like to thank Hack for Good and CMHE Durham for this amazing collaboration today on the 2022 Mental Health Project Hackathon. My name is Dr. Jayarajan. I would like to preface my talk today with the fact that even though the trends in mental health that you will hear about today are rather somber in nature, the world is more connected than ever, and technology has become more accessible than ever. And so this conference couldn't be more timely. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude for this amazing initiative that you are spearheading today. Heading into its third year, the pandemic has been putting a relentless pressure on the healthcare system, and especially the mental health system. I would not be able to do this talk any justice without specifically addressing the mental health impact and trends during the pandemic, as it has been such a unifying and a universal experience for all of humankind in the past couple of years. The mental health of Canadians has deteriorated in the 2 years since the COVID pandemic has started, putting a massive pressure on the mental health care system that was already struggling. In a new survey conducted by Angus Reid Institute in partnership with CBC, 54% of Canadians said that their mental health had worsened during the past 2 years, with women faring significantly worse than men. There are some positive aspects about the pandemic, though, especially when it comes to mental health. Virtual care has been part of our system for a long time. However, it's never been used as widely and effectively as it has been during the pandemic. Some of my colleagues and reports actually show that attendance has improved. We're able to reach a larger portion of the nation, especially in rural and remote areas of Canada. Group therapy attendance has improved. People with difficulties in mobility are having better access. For some settings, attendance has improved. And sometimes patients simply say that they prefer virtual care. So this really ties in beautifully how apps may be a great resource in bridging the gaps in virtual care that we still have. When we're looking at the needs of the mental health care system, let's look at it from a perspective of 3 points. 1, symptoms. 2, diagnoses. And 3, what are the most vulnerable populations in our community? This should give us a better understanding as to who we are targeting and who we're trying to help. Statistics Canada in September of 2021 reported that 1 in 4 Canadians aged 18 and older screened positive for symptoms of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. This is up from 1 in 5 Canadians in the fall of 2020. That's a significant increase. The top 3 diagnoses that have been identified are generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, and PTSD. Generalized anxiety disorder has the key feature of worrying about the future, which makes sense in the context of a pandemic. Major depressive disorder is the clinical name for depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder is something that we're quite familiar with. Some of the top symptoms that have been reported during the pandemic are worry, boredom, stress about getting ill, losing a loved one, job loss, finances, food insecurity, and domestic violence, loneliness, isolation, sadness, and depression. A study done in May of 2020 with 3,000 Canadians over the age of 18 actually identified some vulnerable subgroups. These include people with pre-existing mental health conditions, people with disability, people with an annual household income of less than $25,000, and women faring much worse than men. The number of women in those 3,000 Canadians that reported deterioration in their mental health is 48% versus 33% in men. Studies all across the globe are confirming these patterns. In China, it is women, migrant workers, and people aged 18 to 30 that are faring worse. In Italy, it's women and the unemployed and people with pre-existing medical conditions. In the UK, it's people living with preschool-aged children and the youth 18 to 24. And we've repeated these patterns in the United States as well. The other subgroup that is often ignored are healthcare workers. The Ontario Medical Association is particularly concerned about that. They have noted that patient care in the emergency department has been delayed, and they have identified that reducing delays in patient care will not only improve the quality of life for patients, but also of the healthcare providers that are taking care of them. It will allow them to practice effectively and identify strategies to advocate for changes in the healthcare system if we are no longer in a crisis. So now that we've identified common symptoms, diagnoses, as well as vulnerable populations, what can we do with this with regards to technology and apps? Repeated recommendations are that we focus on socioeconomic stability as well as the wellness of the overall community. As a psychiatrist, I have the unique perspective at looking at the symptoms and diagnoses presented to me and look at what my treatment options are. Cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT, is the gold standard for all of these symptoms, usually in liaison with medications. We know that CBT can be used in various modalities. We have self-help web pages already. We have delivered this modality in a telephone format. A recent study done at the University Health Network in Toronto shows that when CBT is delivered via phone, it can be a feasible and effective treatment for improving psychological distress. So for me, that tells me why not apps as well. CBT is usually delivered by licensed social workers, psychotherapists, counselors, and psychiatrists. And there are other people who are also licensed and trained to deliver CBT. However, we know that there's a significant lack of manpower. And I wonder if apps can bridge some of that gap. What if we had an app that could let patients say what symptoms they have and connect them to an appropriate psychotherapist? And while they're waiting, they could perhaps get some CBT through an app. This way, it could get them some help while they're waiting to get a formal diagnosis from a psychiatrist, when we know that psychiatrists are at a true deficit in our country. This would allow us to treat the symptoms even before getting a diagnosis, and it can certainly alleviate some psychological distress that patients are experiencing. Canadians have said that they want help, however, that the wait lists are long. A recent CBC news article perfectly summarizes the urgency of the current state of our mental health system. It states that constant stress leads to suppression of the immune system, sleep disruptions, anxiety, depression, and emotional dysregulation. If we don't manage this, our long-term ability to bounce back will be affected. What this quote basically says is that the stress posed on us during the pandemic does not only affect us emotionally, but that there is a mind-body connection and that it can affect our sleep and our immune system as well. And so even though masks are perhaps no longer needed in the future and we're all vaccinated and we may bounce back physically, our emotional and mental bounce back won't be the same. And so every aspect of care that can be incorporated, including the use of apps and technology to reach as many Canadians as possible, is certainly valid and important. We know that as recent as January of 2022, Canadians have reported levels of moderate to severe anxiety, loneliness, and feelings of depressions that are just as high as they were early in the pandemic. There are many options for apps. One, as I mentioned, could be a symptom-based approach. Others could be psychoeducational material for people who are supporting others with mental health. What about chat groups or support groups on apps for frontline healthcare workers? There are many options out there. The Journal of Preventative Medicine in April of 2021 states that things are not so dire after all. We can promote a sense of hope, coping, and well-being, and target a community instead of just the individual. We can strengthen the social safety network and provide relief to people directly. We can prioritize the needs of workers and communities and keep our workforce alive. We can build resilience to prevent future crises and build solidarity and equity across communities, generations, and borders. And apps certainly have a role in that. We want to unify Canadians and the whole globe. I know I shared a lot of sobering statistics today and presented a somewhat gloomy state of affairs. However, this is really a window for opportunity. We know that our youth respond so well to technology and social media. And so really our reach is limitless today and the possibilities are fascinating. And I'm really excited to see what the teams develop as a result of this hackathon. I wish you good luck and thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jayarajan. You provided a lot of really useful statistics, information, and even some app ideas in there. So I know you've given our teams a lot to think about. So I mentioned that our teams will be working in their private sessions, but you definitely won't be on your own. We have a great group of mentors who are experts in their field of mental health, software development, business strategy, and marketing. So thank you to Dr. Crystal Martin, Richard Picard, Pamela Pettigrew, Sanjay Pais, Vijay Thikateho, and Nicola Federico for making time to support our teams. Our mentors will be dropping into your team sessions throughout the event, so be sure to check the schedule for specific time slots so you don't miss out. Make sure that all your team members are present and have prepared any questions that you might have. Mentors may spend up to 10 minutes with each team. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to let you know who our judges are. First up is Chris Parsons, Director of E-commerce at Home Hardware. You met Chris very briefly earlier, but I'll share a little bit more about his background now. Chris is a digital marketing expert with a great track record of launching Canadian brands online. With over 20 plus years of experience, Chris was a key member of the leadership team at Walmart Canada during the launch of Walmart.ca. Chris continued his career with stops at Big Al's and Wren's Pets, as well as Newegg, where he was national manager and launched 8 global markets. And now, as Director of E-commerce at Home Hardware, Chris is responsible for Home's strategic direction and online digital strategy. Next, we have Dennis Croft. Dennis is the CEO of 1855 Technology Accelerator, an organization helping revenue-producing and/or large investment technology startups. He's no stranger to the innovation scene, bringing over 30 years of high-tech experience, including senior positions with well-known Canadian success stories such as 360 Insights, In-House Systems, OpenText, Desire to Learn, and SHL System House. We also have Dr. Sayani Paul, who is the scientific writer on the research and academics team at Ontario Shores. She holds a PhD in social work, augmented with extensive research experience in areas of mental health and well-being of various vulnerable populations, such as youth living with serious mental health conditions, or people living with intellectual disabilities, and individuals experiencing homelessness and mental health and addiction issues, older adults and transitional aged youth. She is also an adjunct faculty with the Faculty of Health Sciences at Ontario Tech University. Her research interest areas include mental illness stigma, child and adolescent mental health, and family caregivers' well-being. And finally, we have Isaac Wanzama, founder and chief strategist at Geekspeak Commerce, which is an e-commerce services agency located right here in Whitby, and we're in the office right now. As a serial entrepreneur, Isaac is always looking to solve business problems by supplying new product or service offerings or developing technology. Isaac is an active member of the business community in the Durham region, having participated on a number of regional steering committees. He is also a member of the board for 1855. Now, this panel of judges brings together years of experience in healthcare, science, technology, and business. And I think it's fair to say that they've heard a few pitches over the years. We're really excited to have them join us. Now, before I introduce our final speaker, I have a few more call outs and reminders for you. Each of you were sent a copy of our participant guide and code of conduct via email. Please take a moment to review them if you haven't already done so. You can also find these links in the reception area of Hopin. Just about everything you need to know about the event is contained in those documents. I also want to emphasize that Hack for Good is intended to be a fun, positive, and inclusive event. So basically, we want good vibes only, please. So if the comments in the event chat don't pass the vibe check, we may have some problems. Just calling that out. So since teams will be off in their private sessions, we would love it if you could post, share, or like Hack for Good 2022 related content on your social channels, just so that we can see signs of life throughout the event. Be sure to use our official hashtag, which is Hack for Good 2022, and be sure to tag our Geek Speak handles. The person with the most social media engagement, meaning posts, shares, or likes, will be rewarded with an Uber Eats gift card valued at $100. Okay, teams, we're getting close to the start of the competition, so I need to give you a bit of a rundown, so pay close attention. Hacking will begin immediately after this live presentation. You'll be working within your teams to create software or hardware prototypes that tackle a mental health issue of your choosing. Your team collaboration will take place in your designated team session on the Hopin platform. Now, to prepare for your presentation on Saturday, you'll be given the opportunity to test your connection to StreamYard, which is the app that we'll be using to broadcast your presentation. We're using that right now. Practice runs will start on Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We'll provide more details on the timing of the practice runs once all the teams have settled in. Your presentation does not need to be completely finalized at this point. The practice run is just to introduce you to the StreamYard platform and show you how it works. Okay? Then at 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, that's tomorrow, all hacking will stop. Team presentations will begin at 4:15 Eastern, again tomorrow, which is Saturday. Team numbers were assigned randomly, and so we'll have teams present in order based on their numbers. So the first team to present will be lucky team number 1, followed by team 2, then team 3, and so on. Each team must have at least one team member to present their concept and prototype. And given the short period of time, we recommend 1 to 2 speakers at max. As a note, you'll be able to share your screen during your presentation. As mentioned before, your presentation will be live streamed and broadcasted from the event stage and must not exceed 5 minutes. And finally, once your presentation has wrapped, our 4 judges will pop up on screen and join you, so don't be surprised when that happens. As a reminder, if you have any questions or need assistance, just make a request in the event chat and the Geek Speak volunteer will contact you directly. All right, so that's the rundown, really. Up next is our final presenter. And you may want to take some notes during this one because it's packed with useful tips. Joining us is Richard Picard, Chief Marketing Officer of 5712 Consulting. Richard has spent the last 30 years helping businesses, celebrities, and gospel artists turn up the volume on their big ideas. He connects the dots between brand vision and consumer interests by using the industry's best practices and principles to create high-value opportunities for clients. Richard has also been a thought leader and lecturer at the University of Toronto.
Hey, everybody. My name is Richard Picard. It's my pleasure to be with you today and just to spend a few moments encouraging you and sharing some tips and ideas on how you can put together an amazing pitch at the end of this journey. At the end of the day, we want this to be a success, not just for your experience, but ultimately for the end user who will benefit from your experience, from your gifts and everything that you all have done together. I want to thank our hosts for the hackathon. I'm happy to be here. You know what? Let's get right into it. So here I am. Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Picard. Basically what I do, I'm a marketer and I'm an educator, and I help organizations connect really great ideas to the right audiences. And so today we're going to learn a little bit about how I can help you connect your great idea to the right audiences, making sure you're answering their questions. We're going to talk about building a pitch for a hackathon. Like, what's involved in that? What is the thinking that needs to go into it? Some of you may be technologists or folks that work in other areas of technology, and you may not traditionally be in front of an audience where you have to explain your amazing idea. So we're going to go through a short agenda in a few moments just to give you a sense of what it is that you should be considering when you're putting together your pitch. First thing is, I would say, is that it starts at the very beginning. You don't start to put your pitch together at the end once you've built out your prototype or your technology. You start to consider how you're going to share the story of what it is that you're doing at the beginning. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the story behind the solution. We want you to grab a hold of the understanding of the problem you're actually solving for, and also make sure that you understand that the process of discovering the solution is not only fun, but important. It's collaborative, it's fluid. You may go down one path and come down another. And so I want you to be comfortable with that. Knowing who your stakeholders are and also understanding how the money flows is something to consider. Although I understand you have a very finite amount of time, keeping that in mind will solidify your story and solidify the value for the audiences that you're pitching to. You know, the one thing that I've learned over the years of doing pitches and sharing ideas is that people are interested in people, and then they're interested in ideas. People fuel ideas. And so we're going to talk about that and how you can bring your backgrounds together and the strength of your experiences in order to lend itself to a strong pitch. And finally, the secret sauce to the hackathon. What is it you need to do in the short period of time that you have to pitch your idea? So let's start off with the story behind the solution. When you're thinking about your prototype and thinking about how you're going to solve the problem, start off with the customer story, the user story, and how, you know, that story speaks to the problem you're solving for. At the end of the day, we live in a real world with real people. And so we want to understand what the typical challenges that individuals have, and we want to communicate that clearly. We want to be simplistic and realistic. We want to lay it out in front of people, and so that they will understand, because people remember stories. Storified explanations are much more easier to retain than something that's highly technical or super sophisticated at the very beginning, right? We want to make sure that we are not afraid to present a problem, a solution to a problem, even if it solves a problem for a small audience. It could be a proving ground where it can scale up and get to a point where we're helping a lot of people around the world. The number one thing that is important is understanding the problem. Understanding the problem, I would say, is a prerequisite to your success. What you don't want to do is run off on a tangent of what you think the problem is without confirming that, because at the end of the day, you may be successful solving for something else and not the problem that you have. So in the team and the pods that you are working in, making sure that you have agreement in your group that says, hey, this is what we believe the problem is, this is what the scope is, and we now know what we're solving for. Try and get out of the way a little bit. And although you want to bring your ideas and your experience to the table, you want to make sure that you're solving the problem that exists and not necessarily a problem that comes from another paradigm or another situation that's not relevant to what's before you. In discovering the solution for the problem, as you all get together and collaborate in this, situation of a hackathon, you want to bring all of the ideas to the table, the technology ideas, even the offline ideas, how you're going to get things across, any methodologies, coding structures, ways of doing things. Put it all on the table. I call it a potluck of ideas. And while you're considering that with your pod, keep the user in mind. Okay, the user, who is that? What is their age? What is their dexterity? What is their understanding? What is their profile? Where are they located? What is the language? Who is that person? Keep that user in mind, because it will serve as guardrails for you to make sure that the experience that they have when you're done is one that they can quickly dive into and one that will allow them to lead to success. And one of the last things I'll say in terms of discovering the solution is manage the scope of your solution. Don't try and boil the whole ocean in one setting. Pick a specific problem, provide a specific solution, and keep in mind there's always room to grow along the way. Who wins what? And what are the benefits? Okay, so when you're looking at who wins what, what you really want to talk about is what does this project do? What does this prototype do? How does it allow us to move along? Is it going to educate us? Are we going to learn a language? Are we going to be able to practice some coding? Maybe there's an online course that's bundled into it. Perhaps it's entertaining and we can stream some content or even have a gamified experience. Is it going to provide some connectivity? So is it an opportunity to create socialization or to build a community, or even open up a chat or an audio experience, kind of like what we're doing today, where people can engage and people can share ideas through technology? Or perhaps it's for productivity, maybe to make us more efficient, allow us to produce content, or maybe do some planning or centralize our ideas. Whatever the situation is, we want to understand what is the solution value, right? What is the benefit to the end user? And be very clear on that. This project is going to allow the user to do what? Because you're going to need that information when you're doing your pitch, because you have a short amount of time to get across a large idea, and putting in place those handles allows your audience to very quickly understand exactly how it's going to benefit the end user. Show me the money. Now, you may not get too deep into that as you're doing the hackathon, but I do think it's important that you at least give some thought to who are we selling this to, or are we selling this? Are we giving it away? How much do they pay for it? Or maybe how much funding do we need to keep it going from a sustainability point of view? If there's some e-com involved in that, how do we see that playing out? You don't have to figure out all the details, but definitely give it some thought, because if you were standing in front of me as an executive that is looking to maybe invest in this idea financially, or perhaps use this idea and get it to an audience that will really adopt it, these are some of the things I want to understand is, how do we create sustainability with this project, and from an e-commerce point of view or from a funding point of view, right? If there's any revenue expectations, what could that possibly be? And if there's any threats to that or any assumptions that we need to make, that at least there's been some thought put in place so that that can be explored meaningfully down the road. So don't be afraid of the money question, even though some of you may not know all the answers, but definitely give it some consideration as to how do we create some sustainability for the project. People fuel ideas every single day. So when you're looking at your presentation to investors or to other stakeholders that will be interested in what you've done with the prototype, don't be afraid to talk about perhaps even some of the strengths that are on your team, or maybe some of the experiences that they may eventually end up investing in or taking into account as part of the value proposition for what it is that you're doing. There's a tremendous amount of skill that will be in your pod and in your group. A lot of you have years of experience. Maybe if you add up all the years together, it could easily be over 30 to 50 years of experience, maybe even more. And so keep that in mind as well, not only as you're building the prototype, but also in terms of your pitch. If there's salient points that come to light that add strength to what it is that you're going to be presenting, don't be afraid of putting people before the idea. People love investing in people. So as we get into the secret sauce, the hackathon pitch secret sauce, I'm going to share with you a few ideas and some tips that will definitely help you strengthen your presentation later on at the end of the process. So the first thing I want you to keep in mind is that you need to understand the rules and the expectations of the hackathon. Okay, it doesn't make any sense to spend so much time pouring into this idea, but for whatever reason, you did not do what was expected of you and what the rules and the expectations are. So make sure you go over the rules, make sure you go over the expectations, and that you have agreement in your team that this is exactly what our understanding is, and you move forward with confidence. The next thing is knowing what your time limit is. If your time limit is 5 minutes, then you've got to structure your presentation such that you're able to accomplish that, not in 5 minutes, but maybe 4 minutes and 30 seconds, so that you have enough time to allow whoever's presenting to breathe, to relax, to be in the moment, and not go over the time limit. It's super important. Any investor down the road that would be looking at your presentation says, hey, if they're going to go over the time limit now, maybe they're going to go over budget later, or maybe they're going to go over, extend themselves in areas where they shouldn't have. So you want to respect the time, but you also want to be concise and making sure that ideas you get across are concise, they're tight, they're poignant, and they help contribute to the decisions that you're looking for from your stakeholders. So in doing your presentation, again, another part of the secret sauce is to anticipate the questions that may be asked. As we talked about earlier, you want to know what the problem is. You want to be able to articulate the solution that you're offering. But more importantly, you want to say, okay, this is what makes our solution a little bit different than what's in the open market, right? There are differences between solutions that are out there. There's a difference between McDonald's and Burger King. There's going to be a difference between what you're pitching and what is already out there. And so you want to make sure you understand the difference that you're pursuing, because that carves out your niche in the market and allows people to see you a little bit differently. All right. How is your technology implemented? Who are the stakeholders? And so when I say stakeholders, you want to talk about the users, you want to talk about any other entity that impacts the success of your prototype and ultimately the rollout of your final app. And as we mentioned just a short time ago, any sort of benefits or revenue that could be discussed very quickly is something that you should keep in mind. Okay. Anticipate those questions, because they may be something that comes across the table, and you should have at least a very strong response for that. 3 keys to hackathon pitch success. 3 keys. Key number 1, open with power and with confidence. When you get that moment, seize the moment. Bring the audience into the story of this prototype, okay? Make sure that you convey your idea with excitement and with confidence, but get to the point, okay? Get to the point, be concise, be succinct, but bring the energy, bring the excitement. Point number 2, people will generally remember about 3 things from a presentation. Although you have a lot to say and there's a lot of salient points, you're pretty much going to be limited to 3 points that they're going to retain. So determine what those 3 points are, those 3 simple statements, whether it's a statement about the problem, a statement about the solution, perhaps it's a statement about the revenue, or maybe the execution. Whatever it is, you want to say, literally say, here are 3 things I want you to remember. Item 1, item 2, item 3. Once you nail that down, above all else, they can walk out with those 3 things and begin their deliberation, knowing that they've got the salient points that you want them to hang on to. And then the last point is finish strong. The last thing you say in a pitch is the first thing they'll remember, right? And so remind them of what they just experienced over the last 3 to 4 minutes, right? Express your passion for solving the problem and why you're vested in this particular project, and make the invitation for them to join you on the journey, whatever it may be, whether it's investments, whether it's oversight, whatever it may be. Allow them, invite them into this space that you've just created, and watch what happens. This is going to resonate with somebody, and it's going to land with them in an amazing way. I know I've gone over this really quickly, and I want to thank you for your time. Here's where you can find me online if you're trying to get with me at any point. I'm an open door. I'm happy to talk with any of you at any time. And the last thing I want to say is thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sharing your gifts. Certainly, I appreciate your time just spending a few moments listening to me, and have an amazing hackathon. I think it's going to be great, and some of you will get to meet along the way. Take care.
Wow. Thank you so much, Richard. That was amazing. Your presentation was loaded with really useful tips. And thank you for sharing the recipe for that secret sauce. Much appreciated. I'm sure the participants will put it to good use. I believe Richard's here now at the event. So if you have any questions for him, you can drop them in the event chat. Okay. I know I've been doing a lot of talking, but I just have one more call out. The next time we go live from the main stage will be tonight at 8 p.m. when we have 2 more great speakers lined up. We've got Dr. Crystal Martin, who will share her experience in developing an app focused on providing mental health resources for the Durham Regional Police Service. And we've got Corbin Otwell from 360 Insights, who will share some great UX and UI tips. Okay, that was a lot, guys. I hope you got a lot of information. You're feeling informed, you're feeling inspired, you're feeling fired up, and you're ready to go. Teams, you're going to want to head over to your sessions, because hacking starts now. Good luck, everybody, and see you soon.